I appreciate that. You got that up there. Said. How did you look? Did you say it?
So what am I gonna use this for? Okay, what would I be typing? Okay. I mean, where does it show up at? Up there?
Yeah, it'll show up here. So the chat will be up there. You might be better if you just leave that.
Yeah.
Right?
So if I wanted to raise my hand, do I raise my, where do I raise
Raise
my
your hand
hand?
on
Over here?
Yeah.
Like, can you see it?
Hit it?
Hit, I did.
Yep, I see it.
You see it?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so let me lower my hand. So she moves her computer, they can hear it.
Hello, Vice Chair Harley. Vice Chair Harley.
Mr. President? Mr. President?
Yes.
Councilman Harley is on her, walking into the chambers as we speak.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Am I the only one getting this strange noise?
I think IT's working on it.
Okay, thanks.
She's going to be doing the talking. Okay. Let me know when you want me to start. Testing. Can I get a cue when to start?
Madam Vice Chair, you may now begin the meeting.
Good evening and welcome to our Finance and Economic Development Committee meeting. Today is Tuesday, September the 7th. At this time, we're going to open up and we are going to get started. But before we get started, I'm going to ask that we do our roll call. Starting with the lower district on up to the highest district. The committee members first.
All right, Councilwoman, Xanthi, with third district.
Thank you. Councilmember Gray, did I hear you?
I think Spadola's on there. He's a member of the committee.
Councilmember Spadola?
Yes, I'm here. I was waiting for the district member, the
That's
council planning district members to finish, but I'm present.
Thank you. I'll call the names. Councilmember Field,
Here.
Councilmember Walsh, Councilmember Walsh, Council President Congo,
Here.
Councilmember Johnson,
See, Loretta's connected now.
Councilmember Walsh. I see your face. Okay. All right. I have you marked present. Thank you. Okay. On tonight, we have a pretty robust agenda. We have 5 ordinances. And
Yeah,
we have 2 resolutions. So at this time, we're going to get started with our agenda. And I do want to note that on the agenda, item number 2, we will be holding that. The sponsor wants to hold item number 2, ordinance 21-039. If we have other council members, I would like to acknowledge the other council members as well. If there's any other council members on the line, you can introduce yourself at this time.
Councilwoman Brigida Fields from the 5th District.
Thank you. Okay, I believe that we have our Chief of Staff, Tanya Washington, Chief of Staff for our mayor. I believe she's on in the meeting as well. So I just wanted to, thank you. I wanted to make sure that I identified everyone that's on the call. Is there anyone else on the call that I did not hear from?
Director of Human Resources, Charlotte Barnes.
Okay, thank you.
Really low.
My voice is low, Councilmember Walsh. Okay, we're going to move on. Okay, we're going to move on and get started. Hopefully, you can hear me better now. I moved the microphone up a little closer to my mouth. So at this time, we're going to get started with our agenda. As I said, our first item is an update on the city's American Rescue Act Plan funds. And I'm going to ask Chief of Staff Tanya Washington to come forth at this time.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I'm going to give you an update on the allocations of the ARPA funding thus far. What I can tell you is that we have we've only expended $3,200, roughly $3,200. And so we have 3 allocations, and I will just go through them quickly. One of the $3,200 that I'm speaking of is for administrative costs for salary of a planning department employee who has been working exclusively on our strategic planning. So that's the cost associated with that. The other allocation, and there's been no money spent from this yet, is to conduct our disparity study with Miller 3 Consulting. And so we have $250,200 set aside for that. And lastly, we have $800,000 that we've allocated for neighborhood stabilization on the east side with Habitat for Humanity with their Brushes with Kindness program. And I have Tom Ogden here, who's going to just give you a brief overview of what that project entails.
Thank you.
Good evening. Would you like me to speak, Councilwoman?
Yes, if you're ready, Mr.
Okay.
Ogden.
So one of the things that that we discussed upon learning about the American Rescue Plan dollars. The mayor was committed to improving the quality of life in the neighborhoods throughout the city. And so we started literally brainstorming some ideas that would help to that end. And one of the things that we became aware of was the number of owner-occupied homes that people lived in that were on fixed incomes, and they just didn't simply have the money to keep their places up. So as we started brainstorming this idea, we learned that Habitat for Humanity had a couple of programs that were already in place where they would identify homeowners that needed a new roof, a new heating system. Their electrical system was in disrepair. And they reached out to these folks and assisted them with grants. And that was the mayor's idea, that these folks that were on fixed incomes, that were homeowners, that didn't have the money coming in to take out a loan to get this work done, we would give them a grant. And that's the idea behind entering into a relationship with Habitat, because they were already in this business of doing this type of work.
Thank you. Any questions from the council members?
Yeah.
Councilmember
Yes.
Oliver?
Thank you. I didn't hear you said, he said they were interested in doing this with Habitat because they were in this type of work. And could you clarify that? Because I thought we would work with some other contractors. Wait, let me finish, please. I wasn't finished what I was saying. I thought the reason why we were in this agreement with them because they were going to hire some contractors under them to assist with that, because even though they're in this business, they cannot handle this capacity of work, to my understanding, talking to people who work for Habitat. Yes. So I'm done. Yeah. With that.
I'm not quite sure your question, Councilman.
You're talking about, they'll do the assessment. Councilmember Oliver, they'll do the initial assessment, and there will be contractors that come in and do the actual work. So I think that's the distinction between what you're talking about. If you're thinking that Habitat's going to happen. Okay, yeah.
I'm just asking y'all, could y'all make that clarity, because that's what's going around, and that's the misconception that the city is giving Habitat $800,000 to go in and do the assessment and do the work. And that's what I keep trying to get clear, but nobody's clarifying that. So, can I get some clarity?
Yeah. Are you clear on how that's going to work now, or you happy to?
No, I'm not.
Mr. Ogden, Councilmember Oliver, go ahead.
Can I follow up? I'm not clear. That's why I'm asking the question.
Okay.
So the idea is that there's a program that they have called Brush with Kindness, and they have a second program called Rock the Block. And between those two programs, they have a person that goes out into the community, and they engage with homeowners, and they talk with them about, I call them health and safety issues that they might have with their home. And they identify the folks that might be in need of this work, and they'll hire a general contractor to come in and do the work, and it'll be a grant. And so we're funding that program.
May I follow up?
Yes.
Sure.
Thank you, Ms. Chair. My question is, when you say those contractors, when are we going to see those contractors? A list of those contractors. Who are those contractors?
Well, the mayor is committed to hiring, with this ARPA money, minority contractors that already do business in the city.
Will we see a list of the minority contractors soon?
Sure, we can.
Yeah, sure.
We can provide that. We can show you a collection of the contractors that we know of thus far. But first, the important thing to note is that Habitat has to actually get in there and do the assessment first.
So, Chief of Staff Washington, is there time? I'm sorry, Councilmember
Yeah.
Oliver?
Yeah, I'm saying, can I finish, please?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, that was my next question. When is the time frame for all of this taking place?
Well, we just entered into the agreement and we are in regular communication with Habitat for Humanity. And I think that you can expect that in the next 30 days, you'll start to see some real activity around this.
Thank you, I'm done.
Thank you. Ms. Washington, did you have something that you wanted to say?
No, that pretty much wraps it up for the allocations. So if other council members have questions, we'll be happy to answer them.
Sure. Councilmember Spadola.
Thank you, Chair Harley. How can homeowners apply, and how is Habitat screening the homeowners to make sure, for income limits and whatnot? What does their screening process look like?
For me to sit here and tell you exactly how that screening process works, I'd be making it up. I'm not going to do that. I will tell you this, that the mayor is committed to helping, anyone in need. So there's not going to be this process that you have with income limitations or restrictions. If we identify a household that needs these funds, they will get them. This work being done, they're not going to get funding, they're going to have work done.
Councilmember Spadola, did you have a follow-up?
How is there going to be an outreach portion of that, or is that the Habitat person on the ground in terms of raising awareness of this?
I think the short answer to your question is yes, there will be an outreach program.
Okay.
As it relates to the question that you asked, Councilmember Spadola, one of the requirements that I understand to be one of the criteria is that you have to be a homeowner. Mr. Ogden, is that still one of the requirements? Is that the residents have
That's
to be
correct.
a homeowner?
Yes, Jeff.
Okay. All right. So it sounds like that's one of the other lists that we would like to see. What are the requirements for those that are will be receiving assistance? So,
Okay.
all
We're
right.
good.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Gray.
Yes, thank you. I have several questions based on the discussion that we have. My understanding is that the mayor's office is going to give Habitat for Humanity $800,000, and Habitat for Humanity is going to identify homeowners who cannot do basic repairs like electrical and plumbing. And after they identify that, they're going to hire contractors to do the work. And Habitat will pay these contractors. Is that correct so far?
Yes.
Okay, my other question is, are you going to hire non-union or only union workers?
We
won't be.
won't be hiring anybody.
Well, will Habitat for Humanity only have to hire union workers, or can they hire and will they hire non-union workers?
Most of the people that small contractors, the general contractors that we expect that'll be doing the work for us, they're not union shops.
Yeah, they're real small.
They're small contractors.
Okay, but we're going to get a list by request of Vice Chair of those contractors at some point. Is that going to be prior to they're hired or after you hire them, after Habitat for Humanity hires them?
We're going to get the list for you before they start work.
Okay.
And understand the list is pretty fluid. So, I mean, that could be an addition and subtraction, but we have a general idea of some of the contractors that exist right now.
Right, okay. And the other question is Habitat for Humanity going to do this program in other areas? Because the first district has lots of homeowners who have not had the ability to maintain their property. And I'm sure there are in other districts also. So I want to know if this program eventually is going to move to other districts.
That's the hope. The hope is you get started on the east side, and You know, look, if you have somebody in, you know, if you have somebody in your district that is they've got real concerns about their ability to live in this home, and you reached out, you know, to me, to chief of staff or the mayor, and said, look, I've got, you know, this person and they're in dire straits, and you know they could use our help. We're gonna reach out to them.
Okay, thank you, because I've already had at least 2 people say that they really need a lot of help to stay in their homes, but I'll check it out before.
Be happy to look into it. Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Councilmember Oliver, did you have another question?
Yes, I was just wondering if someone on the line from Habitat.
No.
Wow. I guess as a follow-up, I just feel like that it should be, and I love the work the Habitat does, but it's like they're not the only game in town. And I feel like this money is here and it should be for some minority contractors. I know y'all saying it's gonna be a few, everything is just so plain, a few, a couple. I just think it's horrible. Some of the things that, I'm not gonna say horrible, I don't mean that, but I just think that just say we're giving them $800,000 to manage for us to give them a list, for them to do the hiring. I just don't like it.
Well, they're the administrators of the program. Actually, they're the administrators of the program. It falls under Habitat. However, it's every intention of the administration to make sure that the funding goes to as many minority and small contractors that are out there.
I mean,
it's not our
intention.
Yeah, that's the intention of all of this, and to also improve people's homes.
I mean, when you say they are when you say they are the administrators, and the list that I saw that they were dealing with, it was only 2 from the city and it was 7 of them. And a lot of them was zip code 105 and a lot of them was from Newcastle. And I'm saying, you're making it seem like, oh, y'all know Habitat, you know, they deal with these contractors. No, they don't deal with the minority contractors in the city. That is not true. That's false. Because I looked it up. I mean, you can look it up and see that the contractors they're dealing with. They're not. It's only 2 from the city. It was like 7 contractors, and the rest of them live in Newcastle County or Pennsylvania or out of the state. That's why it was Habitat on the line, and y'all coming on here like, oh, Habitat deals with contractors from the city. They don't deal with Richard Dyke, and they don't deal with More Ways. They don't deal with Norman Oliver. They don't deal with the basic ones or some of the Michael Williams, who do the ones who do some excellent work. They don't deal with them. So they act like they sit up and deal with minority contractors who lived in the city for years and worked in the city and hire people from the city. That is not true.
Well, to that point, council member, we have a list of contractors that we're going to give to Habitat. So it's not like we're pulling off of their list of contractors. We have a list of contractors that we're giving to them. And the list that we have, the list that we have is inclusive of all the companies you just mentioned.
Oh, great, I'm done.
Thank you, Ms. Washington, and thank you, Council Member Oliver. One suggestion that I think we can consider is putting a list of questions together for the administration around this project. The different questions that we may have as it relates to contractors, as it relates to timing, when it's going to start, and any other questions that we may have. I think it will be a good idea because, again, I'm sure that this project is scheduled to get started. I'm not even sure what date Habitat has in mind to get started. So I think these are great questions for us to put together to find out timelines and to find out all the different questions that we may have to allow the administration the opportunity to get the information and get it back to us. I believe Councilmember Gray, do I see your hand?
Yes, thank you. I just have to take this opportunity to say that Councilwoman Oliver are agreeing on a point. She is discussing and debating the same thing I used to discuss about giving contracts to outside agencies rather than we running the project. So this is the same point, and I don't have a problem with Habitat for Humanity, but I understand her concerns, and those were my concerns about us giving money to large organizations to handle and pay other people. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Gray. Any other council members before I go to the public? We do have someone in the chambers here from the public. Any other council member? Is that Councilmember Spadola?
Yes, Chair Harley, thank you. Yes, I just want to say, I mean, with all this money, there's so much potential for corruption, whether it's between picking the contractor and or the home that's getting fixed. I just really hope that the administration is holding Habitat's feet to the fire in terms of, making sure that they're being very scrupulous with the entire process. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I just want to echo again what I just said as it relates to council members' concerns that we have. I think we should document them, and schedule some time with the administration to understand what type of management and accountability that we are going to be holding Habitat. All these are great questions as it relates to the amount of money, requirements from the residents. So it's a pretty big project, and I do think that if we put our information together, get with the administration, I believe that it will definitely be a great project and a great package. Any other council members before I move to the public?
Madam Vice Chair, can I just say that there's a very vigorous reporting requirement that's attached to these funds, and and Habitat has to adhere to that, just as we do. We have to do a quarterly reporting, so obviously we don't want to put ourselves in a bad position, so we're going to make sure that we follow the rules according to how these funds should be spent.
Thank you very much. We have a person here from the public that would like to speak at this time. Is it Jerry or Gary? Is Jerry? You may come at this time and speak. Gary or Jerry? So we are getting this information from online that we have a Gary or Jerry that would like to speak.
Can you hear me?
Okay, we can hear you now.
Okay. Yes, my name is Jerry Crespo. I am the former president of Local 320 for the city of Wilmington.
Hi, how you doing today?
Good, good. My question is for Tanya and Tom as well, because we received notice a couple months ago, I got to be brief, about the American Rescue Plan. And part of the criteria, I believe, is about the essential workers. Like, I don't know if you consider it a bonus or allocate money for us employees that work before, during, and still working after the pandemic. We never missed a beat. The trash was always picked up. Water issues were always taken care of. Traffic. We were going to people's houses during the height of the pandemic, me included. We had several members came out positive because of that.
Mm-hmm.
And we signed a petition. One went to Trippy Congo, and one we sent to the mayor, which we haven't had a response yet. And we're just curious, would like to know if we are being considered to have some money allocated to the workers of the city of Wilmington that worked and are still working out there. Even just recently, this tornado, this thunder, this hurricane. We worked during all Labor Day weekend, but that's something different, I understand. But with the American Rescue Plan, they, as me, former president, they every day they keep it. Are we getting some of that? Are we going to get at least a little bonus check? Are we going to get something? So my question to Tanya and Tom is, are we being considered for allocation of extra funds or hazardous pay? Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else from the public that would like to make a comment? Any other council members would like to make a comment on this topic before we move to our next item on the agenda? Okay, so at this time, our finance chair has arrived and would like to take the seat. So we're going to make a switch at this time.
Maybe.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Chris Johnson, Chair of the Finance Committee. I sincerely express my gratitude to my Vice Chair, Michelle Harley, for stepping in. As we all know, sometimes, uncalled for things happen, and so I appreciate the teamwork here. So I do appreciate the robust discussion on ARPA. I will touch on that a little bit before we adjourn for the evening. But first, I wanted to get to the legislative items, as I do understand there is a packed agenda. So I do want to, I believe we're going to go slightly out of order. We have Councilwoman Oliver has a resolution regarding the license agreement authorizing Celco partnership. I believe we have someone from the administration here to speak on that. This is the second to last item on the agenda.
Yes, Mr. Chair. I do have a resolution to approve the license agreement authorizing Teleco partnership and Verizon to install and operate wireless telecommunication facilities in the public right of way of the city of Wilmington. And I think someone from the law department is here to speak in regards to that.
Is there someone from the law department?
Good evening, Councilmember Johnson and the other council members. Rose Tassoni DiNardo from the law department, and we also have Kelly Williams, the Commissioner of Public Works, who's also here to speak to this particular resolution. At least I hope she should be here.
Yes, I'm here. Okay, can you hear me? Sorry, I was on mute.
I can hear you.
Okay, great.
Kelly, would you like me to just say a few words, or would you?
Oh, have at it, Rose.
Okay. So as Councilmember Oliver indicated, what you have before you is simply a resolution to approve the license agreement to Celco Partnership, which is actually doing business as Verizon Wireless, which is the more common, more recognizable name. And this this license agreement allows Verizon to install and to operate and to construct wireless communication facilities in the rights of way within the city of Wilmington. This agreement is very similar to the agreement that council has already approved for AT&T. In fact, there's two agreements with AT&T. The license to be in the public right of way, which is what we have here with Verizon, and then a second agreement with AT&T for to install wireless facilities on city-owned structures. Are there any questions that I can answer for council this evening?
So, yes.
Yes, Councilwoman Oliver, see your hands raised.
No. So basically, Rose, it's the same as the previous with A&T and AT&T's resolution that we are welcoming a new 5G technology to Wilmington, and with the new innovation that would assist our government's operation and people living and working in the city of Wilmington.
That's correct, Councilwoman Oliver. Basically, this is an agreement that facilitates the 5G build out here in Wilmington. And while there may be some slight differences in the terms, the material terms of the license agreement between Verizon that the city has with AT&T, that the city is proposing with Verizon, are the same.
All right. Anything else from members of council? All right. Hearing none, I don't see any hands raised. I'd like to turn it to members of the public if there's any questions, public statements. Don't believe there's any comments online either. All right. Hearing none, then to turn it back to council. And since this is a resolution, it does not need to be voted out of committee, and it will be placed on the next available city council agenda, which I believe will be September 16th.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, next I have a ordinance.
Councilwoman Oliver, because we went out of order with that one. I do have another special guest, so I want to bump up one other one, and then we'll jump back, okay?
Sure.
All right, thank you. So next I wanted to present, it's the final item on the agenda, but I do have a special expert testifying on this. So I have first is an ordinance 21-44, or ordinance to amend chapter 2 of the city code to require annual ethics training and to revise the procedure to amend the city ethics requirement. Is there anyone from the administration here to speak on that item?
Chair Johnson, this is Bill Larson, counsel to the Ethics Commission. I'm here along with Bill Johnston, who is the chair of the Ethics Commission, and we're prepared to present. Mr. Johnson is actually going to start off for us.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Larson.
Johnson, President Congo, Vice Chair Harley, other members of the committee. A great privilege and pleasure to be with you this evening. We'll try to keep this brief. We know the agenda is quite full, but we very much have appreciated the response from council to the ethics training that the commission offered. We were just so delighted that we had 100% participation in the training on the part of members of council, also the mayor and his senior staff. And we had a great opportunity to engage in dialogue with folks who were participating in the training. At least from my perspective as chair of the commission, it was definitely a two-way street. And while we wanted to share information and we wanted to make clear that the commission is a resource for members of council, for the mayor and his staff, we wanted to hear from the folks who were participating in the training. And we did. And one of the excellent suggestions that came out of the training was to amend the code a bit to require annual ethics training, which, given my day job as a corporate governance lawyer, is something that doesn't seem too remarkable with corporate compliance training and all sorts of training that I'm sure all of us face regularly, whether it's guarding against sexual harassment or otherwise. And so a key component of this ordinance from our perspective is the focus on the annual training. But that said, and Bill Larson will talk a little bit more about this, we are looking to make that training user-friendly, convenient for those who participate. And after the initial training, our thought is it would likely be a fairly brief update. And again, one that would be readily accessible, presumably by video for folks who would be participating. I'm going to end just by, again, saying thank you. Thank you for your consideration of this ordinance, which was unanimously endorsed by the 7-member Ethics Commission. And if I may, unless there are any questions, I'll turn to Bill Larson for just a few comments on his part.
Thank you. Yes, so there are 3 portions of the ordinance. The most significant one is the one that Chair Johnston just mentioned with regards to annual ethics training. City Council and the mayor's leadership went through that already this year, and that went very well, and we appreciate them doing that. So with respect to the training, what's proposed is to have annual training for all city employees, which will help instill public trust in Wilmington city government. The federal government has annual ethics training requirements. The state and county also provide ethics training. It really is a best practice for governments to provide it. And so this is a good step in that direction. The training will promote ethical decision-making in the workplace, identify unethical actions and behavior, and provide training on things like conflict of interest, impartiality, misuse of position, and gifts. And it will promote fairness and equity in city government. The initial training that we've offered already to City Council and members of the mayor's staff was about an hour long, which we anticipate being the way it would be going forward for a first training for folks. And then we'll provide a refresher training in subsequent years that would be much shorter, likely about 30 minutes. And we'll work with the HR department. They've got the capability to do these by video. So where we'll record these trainings and allow city employees to watch them when it's convenient to them. We will also have some live training opportunities. There are 2 other changes proposed in the ordinance. Section 1 makes a change related to changes to the ethics code. Basically, it gives the Ethics Commission an opportunity to issue report and recommendations on proposed changes. And this is really in keeping with the state code, which already requires that changes to the code of conduct go to the State Public Integrity Commission before they can be enacted. And then the final change is really a housekeeping one, which is to make Section 2345 consistent with Section 2344 and the rest of the division with respect to references to the commission's jurisdiction. There's basically a drafting error in 2345 that we're trying to clean up. So that's a quick overview for everyone, and we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Larson. I believe first up, Vice Chair Harley. Question? I think you have to turn your mic on.
Testing. Oh, yes. Yes. So I want to make a point, and my point is this, question. So currently, is this ethics training mandatory right now?
No.
Okay, so if we're going from a training that's not mandatory and to having it every year, I I personally think that we should start off by asking employees and elected officials and appointees make it mandatory. And it could be mandatory and it whatever we would require um, annually could be included in the ethics training once you get elected each term. So my point is that we're going from no management at all to something to me that seems very aggressive. No management, no mandatory to every year. So my suggestion would be for us to make it mandatory and then we can look at how that practice works versus going to every year. And right now, like I said, if we are not even asking people to do it, it'd be mandatory. Like go from not being mandatory to every year. So I think ethics training is important. I took it because I think it's important. So my suggestion would be to make it mandatory before we start asking everyone to do it every year. I would be in favor of each term. It is mandatory for every employee to take it once getting hired, appointed, and elected officials.
My hand was next.
Is there any response, Mr. Johnston or Mr. Larson?
And I have a follow-up. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Well,
Chris,
Real
can
quick,
we,
my follow-up would be
Yeah,
who
the-
would be conducting this ethics training? Is this an internal group from the city that's going to be conducting the training? Do we have an ethics committee? So is that committee the committee that's going to be conducting the training, or is it going to be an outside firm?
Okay, so it sounds like we have a two-part question. Are you able to answer that, Mr. Larson or Mr. Johnston?
yeah, Chair Johnson, as to the most recent question, it's certainly what we intend is that the commission, representatives from the commission would be conducting the training, much as we did this last time around with me participating as chair, the vice chair of the commission participating, and Bill Larson participating. But certainly if there would be suggestions going forward as to how we can improve on any of that, we're happy to hear them. We would very much welcome them. On the on Vice Chair Harley's first point, just to clarify so that I understand, is the suggestion that at least for the time being, the annual requirement of training not be included, but that training, generally speaking, be mandated at least at the time of hire or the beginning of a term of service as a member of council? Is that the idea?
I think all the categories that will be included in whatever the annual, um, this annual training you're talking about. So, but I think that it should be once getting hired, appointed, and elected. So, of course, if you're elected, you would get the training every term, even if it's your second term or third term, you would still have to take the training for each term. If you appointed, you would get the training, and if you get hired as a merited employee, you would get the training, and you would sign off on that training as you would annually. That's my response.
Okay.
And my follow up quickly, Mr.
Yeah.
Chair,
Yes, please.
will we be paying another firm to be involved in this training at all? Or will this be inside? And the only reason why I'm asking that question is, again, if we're going from not being required or mandatory at all, and we're going to require it to be mandatory yearly, and we're going to get an outside firm to do it, that's costing our taxpayers money. So that's why I'm asking the question. if it's going to be internally conducted or externally. Are we paying any firms to do any of this training? That's my question.
So the answer to that is, I hate to say yes and no. The answer is the city is not currently paying any outside business, a consulting business, for example, to provide the training. But the city, and in my view, the Ethics Commission is very much benefiting from Bill Larson as now outside counsel, continuing to advise the commission and participate in the training. So to be very precise in responding to your question, strictly speaking, yes, there is some outside involvement just because Mr. Larson, who was formerly with the city law department, is now back in practice, but to our great benefit, continues to provide counsel to the commission.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. If there are a few hands raised, I believe Councilman Spadola is first. Councilman
Thank
Spadola?
you.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair Johnson. 1 second here. Thank you. I just wanted to provide some background on this legislation and my intent when I approached the Ethics Commission, because it might be helpful in understanding. After we went through the ethics training, initially I thought it was really good training. And I thought it was, at first, there wasn't 100% participation from council members. And that was very concerning to me that, here we're provided a great opportunity. Something I think that taxpayers really want us to go through ethics training, and not everybody was taking advantage of it. Thankfully, everybody did. But my intent originally was to just focus on council members. So, we can learn about, make sure we're in tune with conflicts of interest. And then it's mandatory in the sense for us, only in the sense that it would be disclosed on, I believe, the HR website, whether we went through it or not, because obviously if a council member doesn't go through it, shame on them. But it's not like, you would just lose your office. It's different for an employee. But many conversations with the Ethics Commission, it delved into including all employees, because whether it's, any police captain, fire department officer, they can be dealing with millions of dollars in contracts, and they might own stock in that company. And it might not even occur to them that it is a conflict of interest without this training. So it's something that, any city employee can be in a situation where they have good intent and they're just not, they don't know something's a conflict of interest unless they've been trained on it. So this is just a way for us to make sure that, city employees are cognizant of that, so they can recuse themselves off of dealing with a contract if they do have a conflict. And overall, I think make for a, better, safer, more economically secure city and more ethical city. So I just wanted to provide that background.
Thank you very much. Councilwoman Oliver, I believe you're next up.
Yes, yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was going to, I want to say a couple of things here. If we're going to change this, well, first of all, I know all city employees already read this in HR, so we already signed off something for as ethics when we came on to council. But if you're going to change this, this process, I will not be voting for it to make it mandatory and mandatory. I mean, well, employees, like I said, they already do it, but to start making things mandatory for people, I've never been in favor of that. People, this is a part-time job. On your full-time job, you go through most time full-time ethics training, but part-time people may have showed up, may have not shown up. Like you said, if they don't read it, shame on them. But when you start saying mandatory this and start making all these restrictions or mandatory mandates on a part-time jobs, I won't be in favor of this legislation. And secondly, well, I'm gonna just go for that right now. And another thing, if you're gonna change all this up, I say, I'll wait. Come back to me, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. And And I apologize, I didn't see Mayor's Chief of Staff, Tanny Washington.
Yes, if I may, Councilmember Harley, Vice Chair Harley had a question around it being mandatory. It is actually mandatory. That's the legislation is making it so that this will be required for all city employees, appointed and elected, and also just, you know, not just appointed and elected, but all city employees. So that includes police and fire and everybody else. I didn't see anything in here that referenced part-time employees. I think this is really focused on full-time employees. So if I made a mistake on that, somebody needs to provide clarification. But I think this is really just structured for full-time employees.
Council Member Fields.
Thank you, Council Chair. I just had a question. And I think, excuse me, I think Chief of Staff Washington answered my question about the, you know, who actually had to take it and was it mandatory? So you're saying full-time employees, they have to take it, you know, upon hire, and then annually it's done. So this is nothing new. Is that what you're saying? It's not like you're recreating the wheel?
Well, the ethics training is new. So the ethics training is new. It will be required annually. However, as Mr. Larson described, it would just be a refresher afterwards. You wouldn't have to go through a whole nother hour of ethics training. It's just like a refresher course. So we take training, you know, we have different types of training every year. So this is just another subset of that. This is just ethics training that everybody would have to go through.
Okay. And it's not like you have to have somebody come in and do it. Is it like a I want to say like a application or like a learning pod on the on your computer where you can go click it, you know what I mean, and do the training online, or
yeah,
you have.
Yes, I think you could fulfill the requirements online.
Correct.
Oh, okay. All right. So then it's not that hard. Okay. I just kind of wanted to know. I work in the corporate world. I've been in the corporate world for over 20 plus years, and I know that we have to take them annually. It's mandatory. And we just take 30, 45 minutes and we do it. I think sometimes we have to do it twice a year. So I was just wondering, you know, if you don't have to, you're not really having someone come in to do the training. So you're not like having to pay somebody to do it. It's already on the computer. Do it, get it done. That's I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
And Vice Chair Harley, leave it back around again.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The gentleman said that there will be a cost involved. There will be a cost involved, even if it's a type of training that you just go online and do independently. But that's not the message that I got from the gentleman, that it's no cost involved. And I just wanted to say that I support 100% ethics training. Ethics is very important. And I guess, again, we mentioned the categories are for full-time employees and for council members. I which I think it should be for anybody that's working for the city. I guess other than the part-time. But again, we're going from not making it a requirement to every year just seems to be very aggressive, and especially if we're going to be paying an outside firm to do this. If this was being done in-house and we do not have to pay an outside firm to do it, then maybe, but I would definitely be in support of training. That's a fact. But I just don't see it being necessary every year, because whatever is implied when you first get started with the company or get elected or get appointed, it just apply for the duration of the time that you're working for the city. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
I appreciate it. And
I'm great.
we are running short on time, so Councilwoman Oliver, you have a brief comment, and then we have HR Director Charlotte Barnes. And I think we have to move to the
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was going to echo what Councilwoman Harley said. I would be in support of it. Every 2 years, I make a motion. I mean, if you keep it, but I don't know to make the motion. If you're changing this whole ordinance, I'm against it. But if you're keeping it the same, I move a motion and make it every 2 years. I don't see where it's mandatory or it should be every year ethic training. So, I mean, I would be in favor of it.
All right, we have a motion on the floor
thank
to amend now specifically on the amendment.
the third,
So your proposal would be to take line essentially subsection B and
correct.
subsection I, and the fourth line you would amend, instead of 12 months, you would amend it to 24 months. Is that your amendment? I just want to clarify. Subsection
Right, every
B,
2 years, not
yeah, so it
subsection
would
B.
be ethics training, instead of within the past years, that would be stricken, and it would be replaced by within the past 12 months, 24 months. Is that correct, Councilmember?
24 months.
Okay, all right.
Yes, sir.
So
That's
we have
correct.
that amendment on the floor right now. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right.
So,
We have amendment on the floor and second to amend the ordinance 21-44 to change it to 24 months. Is there any on that amendment? Is there any further discussion? Okay, Councilmember Spadola.
Thank you, Chair Johnson. I can understand, I sympathize, but at the same time, I don't think anything is more important to a city than having elected officials that are well-versed and well-studied when it comes to ethics and conflict of interest. So I'm going to oppose the amendment. Thank you.
All right, and we do, I don't know if this is on the amendment or in the ordinance in total, but I do have HR Director Charlotte Barnes. Do you have any brief insight into the training questions?
I do, Mr. Chair. I wanted to try to
Point of order, we on a motion.
Okay, so, all right, so
All right.
we'll go back to you, HR Director Charlotte Barnes.
certainly.
Actually, I want to keep this in order, just trying to speed through the agenda, but we do have the motion on the floor. There's a second from Councilwoman Harley. So at this time, I will ask for a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
aye. Aye.
All right. So it looks like we'll have to do the members of the Finance Committee will need to do a roll call vote. So
Chair Johnson,
Thank
can you clarify this vote is on the amend? This is just for
this is on the amendment. This is not on the total ordinance.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Thank you.
So this is on the amendment. Vice Chair Harley.
Yes.
Yea or no? Okay. Councilman Field.
No.
Councilwoman Oliver.
Yes.
Councilwoman Walsh. I'm not sure if she's still on. I know she has some technical difficulties. Are you there, Councilwoman Walsh? Okay. Not voting. Councilmember Spadola.
No.
Okay. And Council President Congo. Council President Congo. All right. And that is a non-vote, and my vote on this will be no. So the proposed amendment is defeated. So now we will go back to the agenda and go back to the ordinance as written with the 1 year requirement. So going back to that, is there any other final statements? I believe HR Director Charlotte Barnes this would be your time now if you have anything that will further enlighten council.
Well, I wanted to provide some clarity to what what was being said. Upon hire, every employee is required to, the code of ethical conduct is explained to every employee and they're required to sign it. What this does is an extension of this training on an annual basis. Initially the broad training and then a more condensed version. I wanted to try to speak to the cost associated with it. When I had conversations with the Ethics Commission in developing this legislation, HR is developing a learning platform so that the trainings can be online. And it's my understanding that the Ethics Commission will produce a training video that would be online and could be utilized for the training. So I think that would alleviate the cost question that was being discussed. I don't want to speak for Mr. Johnston, but I believe what he was indicating is that Mr. Larson is counseled or works for the commission, counsel to the commission. And so there was, obviously we have benefit of his services, but there is no fee, as I understand it, for any vendor or otherwise to come in and train. The training that we received was through the Ethics Commission, and there was not a fee associated with that. So I wanted to provide some clarity to that. In terms of who the training is for, it says city employees, and so that would be your full-time city employees. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
All right. Well, at this time, I believe there's been quite a discussion, and we can continue this debate. I would like to, as we have a packed agenda, I would like to at this time, I would make a motion for Ordinance 21-44 to be voted out of committee and placed on the next City Council agenda, which I believe is September 16th.
Second.
All right. It's been moved and seconded to move Ordinance 21-44 to full council vote for a vote. I believe this may be appropriate to ask for a actual roll call vote. So I'll start with Vice Chair.
Present.
8th District, Councilman Field.
Yes.
All right. 3rd District.
Present.
Councilwoman Walsh at large. And other at large member, Councilmember Spadola.
Yes.
Have Council President Congo on the line. All right. All right. And my vote will be yes. So with that, the yeas have it, and the matter Ordinance 21-44 will be placed on the City Council agenda on September 6th.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Now, hold up a second, Chairman Johnson. I believe you do have one more item, so I wanted to address that. We have a resolution approving the reappointment of 5 members to the Ethics Commission. Are you able to speak on that, Chairman?
I can address that.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Larson, the floor is yours.
Thank you. This is a resolution reappointing 5 members of the Ethics Commission. 5 members have served a 4-year term, and their terms are coming up. They can be reappointed for another 4-year term, which the mayor has done, and so that goes to council for council's approval. The 5 current members who are seeking reappointment are the chair, William Johnston, Catherine Clocko, Faith Messenger Pettit, Melvin Phillips, and retired Judge Charles Tolliver. They meet the various requirements that the code has in terms of political party balance and not having elected or appointed positions. And I have worked with them over the last 4 years, and all have been very good members of the commission. It's a diverse group, and they have worked very well together. And so we're all very happy that the mayor has reappointed them, and this is a resolution for council's approval.
there any discussion on this item? All right. Hearing none, I would like to then turn it to members of the public. If there's any public comment. Going once, going twice. All right. With that said, this is a resolution, so it does not need to be formally voted out of committee, and it will be placed on the next city council agenda, and that will be September 16th. Thank you very much, Mr. Larson and Chairman Johnston.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right.
Thank you, members of the committee.
All right. Now, going back in order on the agenda, Councilman Oliver, I believe you have a few matters. I believe first one starts with Ordinance 2141.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Ordinance 21-041, ordinance to authorize approve a license between the City of Wilmington and the Environmental Research Institution. I think someone from Public Works is online, either Vince or either Kelly, Commissioner Kelly.
Yeah, I'm here. Commissioner Kelly Williams, Commissioner of Public Works.
You speak in regard to this ordinance?
Yes. So this is a so this is an ordinance that authorizes the execution of a license agreement between the City of Wilmington and the Environmental Systems Research Institute, also known as ESRI, for access to software to apply the Geographic Information System technology, also known as the GIS systems technology, to many of our operational and technical areas within the city for a period of 3 years, from September 22, 2021 through September 21, 2024.
Much, Commissioner. I believe so someone else from your department here to speak on that. Okay. All right, so I understand from your department that that should be sufficient. All right. Is there any questions or comments by members of council? Okay. Seeing none, I'm turning it to the public. Any questions or comments on this proposed contract? All right. Well, seeing none, this is an ordinance, so it does need to be voted out of committee. So at this time, I would like to make a motion to pass ordinance 21-41 out of committee and place it on the full council agenda.
So moved.
All right.
Second.
All right. So it's been so moved and seconded to place ordinance 21-41 on the city council agenda. At this time, I'll just be asking for a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Is there any opposed? All right. The ayes have it, and ordinance 21-41 will be placed on the full council agenda on September 16th, which is next week.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have
right.
one more.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have another ordinance.
Okay, the floor is yours, Councilwoman.
Thank you. I have one more ordinance, ordinance 21-042. This ordinance authorizes improved discount disposal free agreement between the City of Wilmington and Delaware Solid Waste. This is basically an ongoing agreement. I would also ask Commissioner Kelly to speak in regards to this ordinance.
Okay, Commissioner, the floor is yours.
Sure. So this is our discount disposal fee agreement with between the city and the Delaware Solid Waste Authority for the receipt and disposal of solid waste and the processing of recyclable materials for the period of 3 years, started July 1, 2021 through June 30 of 2024. Just for everybody's reference, the amount of tonnage, the amount per ton is actually going down this year. we were paying $73 a ton. This contract is now allowing us to pay $70 a ton this year, $71 a ton next year, and $72 a ton in 2024. Actually, starting in starting July 1, 2023 through June 30th, 2024 will be $72 a ton. And recycling remains to be free. So the contract is actually an improvement from where we are now.
I have one question, Commissioner. Is there any allowance for making the excessive tonnage fees a little bit lower as well? Because I understand, the past year and a half, 2 years, solid waste levels have gone up tremendously. Are we getting a little price break on that too? Obviously, we hope to be out of pandemic, but that would be nice while we're still getting out if we could get a price break on that end too.
No, if we continue to pick it up, we have to continue to pay for it. So the only way we can control the amount of that we pay for tonnage is to encourage people to recycle more, throw out less.
Mm-hmm.
Because recycling is zero. It costs us nothing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's a talk for a Public Works committee or another day, but I would definitely hope we're working towards plans to do that. And I know my district, I believe, is the highest rates in the city during the pandemic. So there's obviously room for improvement there. All right. Well, is there any other questions or comments by members of council? All right. Seeing none, I will then turn it to members of the public if there's any questions or comments. All right. Seeing none, then I will turn it back. If there's no final words by the sponsor, then at this time I would entertain a motion to move 2142 out of committee and to the full council floor for a vote.
Second.
All right. It's been so moved and seconded to move ordinance 21-42 to the full council for a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All right. Any opposed? All right. Well, the ayes have it
Thank you.
by voice vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you,
And
Mr. Chair.
Ordinance 2142 will be placed on a September 16th agenda. All right. All right. I think we're next up is Ordinance 21-45. This is an ordinance to amend Chapter 40 of the City Code to change the observance of Veterans Day as a paid holiday to the 11th day of November. This is an ordinance that I believe it's been a long time coming, and it's been a lot of negotiation on this subject, especially through the pandemic. But we just believe the intent is to make our city in line with the rest of the state and the courts and everything else. So is there anyone from the administration to speak on this item? Ms. Charlotte?
I'll speak on it, Mr. Chair.
All right.
Yes, I'll speak on it,
floor is
Mr.
yours,
Chairman. Thank you. This ordinance, as you indicated, and we thank you for sponsoring this legislation. This does not increase the number of holidays provided for city employees. It just changes the observance of Veterans Day. And in our union contracts for our absentee locals, Veterans Day was the fourth Monday in October, and that is the way it is in city code. It created some disruption, particularly as it related to trash pickup and other items. We were closed, everybody was open, and then on the 11th, we were open, everybody was closed, and it caused for confusion. The union did approach the city about changing it, and it was something the city was interested in doing. So what you have before you is the change to the code, and we already have memorandums of understanding with the locals that were impacted to change the holiday. And if adopted by the council, it will be effective immediately. So if it passes, we would not observe Veterans Day on the fourth Monday. Rather, we would observe it on November the 11th. The last thing I'd offer is that there is a separate provision in city code that indicates if the holiday falls on a Saturday, we observe it on a Friday. And if it falls on a Sunday, we observe it on a Monday. And that would be the case for the Veterans holiday as well.
And to my understanding, Director Barnes, that there is no fiscal impact, is there?
That is correct. There is no fiscal impact associated with this ordinance.
All right. All right. Thank you very much, Director Barnes. Is there any comments or questions from members of council? Okay. I'm seeing none. I would then like to turn to members of the public if there's any questions or comments. All right. Well, seeing none, then at this time, since this is an ordinance, it needs to be voted out of committee. But this time, since this is my legislation, I would like to make a motion to move ordinance 21-45 out of committee and place on the full council floor for a vote.
So move.
All right. And at this time, I would like to second it. And at this time, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Any opposed? All right. The ayes have it, and ordinance 21-45 will be placed on the full council agenda for a vote on September 16th, 2021. Thank you very much, everyone, for supporting this. All right. And last but not least, we are zipping through the agenda now. We do have ordinance 21-46. This is an ordinance to amend chapter 40 of city code related to eliminating bumping rights for non-union employees in classified service. This is the prime sponsor is Councilwoman Walsh, and I believe she's still having technical difficulties. So I will try to at least somewhat sum up what this is. This is an ordinance. I believe this is provided to only classified non-union employees. It will not affect the rights of union employees. And it's simply just cleaning up the city code to make it more fair for these non-union employees. So with that, is there anyone from the administration who can speak on specifically any other impact of this?
I will, Councilmember Johnson. I did receive a note from Councilwoman Walsh asking me to speak to this legislation for her because she's having technical difficulties. This legislation is being presented by Councilmember Walsh. And as you accurately indicated, it does not impact any rights of union employees. So I'll stop back and add a little context here. If an employee, if for any reason the city has a reduction of force or positions are eliminated, employees have three options. They can bump another employee, they can take the layoff, or they can see if there's a vacant position into which they can move into that they will be qualified for. This legislation preserved the rights all except the bumping right. And the bumping right, Councilmember Walsh has indicated that it's disruptive. It results in the city retaining employees based on seniority versus based on their knowledge, skills, and abilities or their skills. So it's also impacts morale because oftentimes, when I've experienced this, a few times that this has happened in city government, is that oftentimes people are retained and they aren't the best suited person for the job or even have necessarily all of the skills to perform the function, but they were the senior person and so they were retained, and that is contributes to decreased morale. The employees, as I indicated, still will have the ability to be on the recall list, which means that, if you have been separated from employment with the city due to a reduction in force, for up to 2 years, you have first dibs at any job for which you are qualified for that was at or beneath the pay grade that you previously held. So that is the crux of the legislation. You'll see that it's broken down into 2 parts. One that clearly lays out that nothing impacts union employees, and the other that clearly speaks to the only thing that's changing with non-union employees.
All right. Thank you very much, Director Barnes. Is there any comments or questions by members of council? All right, seeing none, I would then like to turn to the public. Any public comments or questions? All right, seeing none, then since this is an ordinance, it does need to be voted out of committee and to go to the full council for a vote. This time, do we have a motion to move ordinance 21-46 out of committee to the full council floor for a vote?
Mr. Chair, my computer's not working, and I just wanted to say one thing.
Yes.
I'm sorry about that. It's just no internet connection. I think this is a good piece of legislation. Being equitable and treating people fairly is definitely something that I support 100%, and I would like to be added as a co-sponsor to this legislation.
All right. So noted, Councilwoman Harley. Thank you very much. At this time, I believe we do have the motion on the floor to pass ordinance 2146 out of committee.
So moved.
All right. Is there a second? All right. I will second. All right. So moved and seconded to move ordinance 21-46. And at this time, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. At this time, are any opposed? All right.
Did I have a voice? I mean, a roll call? I only heard one voice. I'm sorry, I'm not committee member yet.
Well, I believe there weren't any nays, so I think by voice vote, I think the ayes had it. Unless I'm incorrect, I'm checking with our chief of staff. I think we're okay. Okay, so the ayes did have it by voice vote. I don't think there was a need for a roll call on this one. So at this time, the ayes have it, and ordinance 21-46 will be advanced to the full council for a vote on September 16th, 2021. Thank you very much, everyone. All right, then this wraps up our Finance and Economic Development Committee meeting. I do first and foremost want to recognize 2 members of the public here in person. We have Mr. Brandon Fletcher and Miss Brianna Fletcher. They are always involved and always engaged, and so I appreciate them coming back. It is nice to see everyone in person for the first time in a while. And again, we encourage, as we go through this hybrid situation out of the pandemic, we encourage everyone to, if you feel safe, please come to the city county building and masked. That would be very good as we try to get back to a new normal. So I appreciate it. We don't have the date for the next Finance Committee meeting soon. It will be posted. It will be sometime around the first week of August. And again, the ARPA will be on top of the agenda. And then one thing to note is a housekeeping matter. I know I express the sentiments of many of my colleagues that we definitely take this very seriously. We take our oath of office very seriously, and we have a lot to do with the ARPA in terms of building up communities. And with that, we do like engagement from the community. So if you have a proposal idea, at least I know for me personally, please don't email just plain without explanation. Please call. You can call our city council chambers, or even for me, for instance, my cell phone is 281-2018. Please give me a call and explain your proposal, because we're getting, I don't know, over 100 proposals for all different kind of things from every sector of the city, inside and outside the city, for everything from housing to violence. We're getting just swamped with proposals. And if you want your proposal to stand out, please directly contact City Council. We read every one and we get summaries, but nothing beats that personal touch. I know I appreciate it. I know my Vice Chair Harley appreciates it. Just even a call to explain what your proposal is. Because a lot of times reading things on paper is not always clear what the intent is. So please try for the engagement. You know, we will be deciding as a city what we will do. And if you have a great idea, please, we want you to stand out, okay? So with that, we do have the next Finance Committee meeting date. That will be October 4th. That will be Monday, October 4th. All right. Well, with that said, I believe that completes our agenda. And it's time I appreciate everybody being patient as we had a long agenda. But I believe that concludes our business, and I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
All right. Is there a second? All right. I will second. And all those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Any opposed? All right. The ayes have it, and the meeting is adjourned.
Good night.
Be safe and well, everyone. Thank you very much.